We move forward, we go down in the ditch, we go up over the berm. A lot of enemy all in the ditch. Yeah, and it was like a freaking turkey shoot. I remember we killed hundreds in seconds. Some guys ran, some guys were captured. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So I crossed the footbridge and Corporal Silva, my team leader, was right in front of me. He peels off to the left, I peel off right behind him. I heard a gunshot and Silva just dropped, just like right in front of me. He's kind of like flew back and he kind of like looked at me as his eyes started like go up into his head and he just like dropped right at my feet. So I look up and there's a dude in this body of water who got in between us and the vehicles. I had this belt-fed machine gun and I could only see half of them. I shouldered that thing, weighs 35 pounds. I shouldered that thing like it weighed 2 ounces and let every single round that thing was holding. But they took Silva and got him out immediately. No, I never saw Silva again. He died right instantly. So yeah, that's a bad day, man. I sent a team into the house, his team, first house of the day. We had a squad in this house, a squad in the house next to it, across the street, a line, and there must have been a dozen of them. With 24 of us, all slept within 10 meters of each other. The fact that none of them were like smoking cigarettes, like if they would have made any noise, lit up a cigarette, like done anything, we would have noticed it. So
they knew you were coming.
Well, they were waiting for us, and they were disciplined and drugged up. They're like zombies, man. Sometimes you shoot these guys and they're still running at you. Unless you hit them in the face, then they drop. But if you wing one of them, they're like zombies. They already know the outcome, and that's that. They're all gonna die. Yeah, so I sent Greg's team in first, and he goes in there and just like instantly all freaking hell breaks loose. Like that house, the house next to it, the house behind it. As soon as they made contact, they engaged and then came running back. And I was on the roof behind, I could see them running back. They got back and they're like, well, Greg's not here. Greg's not here. Run, he's not here. I'm like, fuck, he's not here. He's still in the house. So he was the last guy out. When the guy ran out, the Marine in front of him ran out, he just wasn't behind him. Something happened, obviously. Everyone thinks everyone's out and the tanks are just about to freaking destroy this place. And so there's a brief window where it's like, we got to stop these tanks from freaking lighting this whole freaking block up, from both sides. Because we still have a Marine in there. Grenades are flying across the street at us, which turned out to be his grenades. It was horrendous. I did send Miller's team after a small amount of time. Miller goes in there and gets him out, man. It's just like crazy, man. His body's everywhere. It's a bad day. Sean Tosh went fucking kind of crazy, I guess. He was really upset about that. And I think we fell back like a block, whole company, and it just rained F-18s for like 45 minutes. It's like 500 pounders dropping like jelly beans out of the sky.
You guys lost 19 Marines on that deployment and 19 babies were born.
Yeah, 19 dead and 19 babies born in the battalion while we were gone during that deployment. Yeah, you can't make that stuff up. At this point, I'm 43 and honestly, I don't hear about suicides much anymore in the last 2 or 3 years, maybe, just because they're all dead, which is crazy, right? The suicides have slowed down because there's no one left to do it. And I don't even know what the number is. I don't know if anyone's even keeping track. A good friend of mine, he was a guy that was kind of like the dude putting together the 3-5 reunion stuff. He was the guy that was always organizing that kind of stuff. And he killed himself like a few years ago. So now I don't even know what the hell is going on. I would call him and he would tell me what was going on. Now he's dead. So, what do you do with all that? It's just nonstop. I was standing there one day and I was standing out in the backyard in this dumpy house, whatever. I was waiting for some idiot to come run out the back door. And I was just standing there and just like, my hand was like shaking. I was like looking at my hand and I'm like, why the fuck is my hand shaking? I'm holding my rifle and it's like doing this shit. My conscious mind is like, what the fuck is going on? And then my leg was like doing the same thing. And I'm like, what? I'm like looking at, I'm like, what? Why are you shaking? Standing there with my rifle waiting for some nut job to go run out the back door. And I was just like, man, something's not right. When you make decisions that cost people their lives, not a forethought, but an afterthought, like I made a decision that actually someone got killed or multiple people got killed. I personally feel like you have two options. You can think about it all day, every day, and it's going to kill you, or you can go the other way. There's only one of two ways this is going to go. You're going to move forward and succeed, or it's going to consume you and it's going to kill you. So I have to decide. Do I keep pushing my luck and become a statistic, or do you swallow your pride and walk away? And we did just that, man. Just get on Facebook and start selling stuff off. Sold the house, sold the cars, which is shockingly easy. Carvana will just come pick it up on your driveway. It's amazing. So we obviously couldn't fill a truck up with stuff we wanted. It was like 4 carry-on bags and 4 check bags and some boat stuff that I knew we would need and all the stuff you think you need that you don't need. So 4 or 5 sea bags and some backpacks and flew to Panama.
Whole family?
Yeah.
We had kind of left where you were talking about you had gone to Alabama to take a sailing course and kind of learn about sailing. At what point did you realize, man, I really like this. This is something I want to do full time?
I don't think there was a singular incident that would define that. So I took some sailing classes and I was like, this is really cool. Maybe something my wife and I could do, later when you retire. I went down to Florida and took some more advanced courses, learned a lot. And I was like, oh yeah, I really like this. This would be something, at the time there was kind of these beginnings of YouTube channels and sailings and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, man, that sounds like something I could do, man. That sounds cool. It's the freedom of the ocean. And, in the beginning, you have no idea what that really means, right? You just have an idea. You don't know where it's going to take you. Once I got some certifications to do it, we did a couple trips down to the Virgin Islands, and we went down there with the kids, and the kids were young. We went out for a week, 10 days, and I was like, wow. And the kids just ate it up. Women jumping in the water. There was no internet, there was no iPads, there was no phones, there was none of that stuff. It reminded me of when we were younger, when you didn't have any of that stuff. I have a stick, you have a stick. Let's dig a hole with our sticks. And that's what we're going to do for the next 6 hours. But it was kind of a controlled environment in a sense that you're on an island, there's only so far you can go. But I would argue, swimming around with turtles is probably less dangerous than riding your bike in a 4-lane road.
Great point.
So I liked it. I liked what it did to the kids. My wife was like, yeah, this is cool. And, but that's totally different than,
let's go live on it.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing. So kind of this time I was like, well, I'm going to walk away from ATF. And it's like, what are we going to do? And I was like, and this is right as COVID's beginning. I was really not happy with, probably like many people, what was going on in the schools. They just cut them loose. And it's like, so now all of a sudden it's now you're listening to what's going on. And you're like, man, I could teach you what you did in a week. I could teach you in an hour. So
yeah, and we were essentially homeschooling our kids during COVID anyway, dude.
Right.
Teachers would waste some time online. And I mean, not all of them, but man, bro, a couple hours, then you're stuck teaching.
Yeah, and some of it's understandable, right? Yeah. No one knew what to do. The system's not designed to deal with something like that, and no one knew what to do. And I kind of had this realization, I can do it better. I can do it faster, better, more efficiently. And it's well, how are we going to pay for all this, right? That's the big thing. And it's when I was able to walk away, and then a little bit from the VA, and I was like, we can do this. We can cut our cost of living, in half. When you start really kind of contemplating what you need and what you don't need, the military teaches you that. You really come to terms with what is necessary and what is not. And it's easy to forget that, when you're not around it.
Yeah, I lived in a Connex box.
Right.
A small one.
Yeah. But, this opportunity presented itself, and we were sitting at home. I was talking to the wife about it, and she's like, yeah, it sounds like an adventure, let's do it. And I talked to kids, and I was like, I didn't make them do anything. They'd seen stuff down in the Caribbean, and they liked it. And obviously they don't know any better, but they still got to vote. I wasn't going to make anyone do anything. And, my son was playing hockey at the time. So competitive, even though he was young, was still competitive. And I was he was the one I was kind of worried about. He might balk at this. I was like, yeah, you won't be able to play hockey, but you'll be able to go, surfing and scuba diving, and you'll be doing stuff. You'll just be doing different stuff. And he was like, yeah, I'm in. I was like, all right, everyone's in. So then we just started shopping. So I found a boat in Panama. And I was like, yeah, that's the boat I want. So I went to Panama, and then it's oh, now stuff started getting real, right? This is a lot of money. It's everything I have, sell the house, sell the couch. It's an estate sale, right? Everything. We have to sell every single thing we have to make this happen. And we did just that, man. Just get on Facebook and start selling stuff off, and kept a pile of stuff, of memorable stuff, and put it at my dad's house. But sold the house, sold the cars, which is shockingly easy. Carvana will just come pick it up on your driveway. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we obviously couldn't fill a truck up with stuff we wanted. It was like 4 carry-on bags and 4 check bags, and packed up with stuff, some boat stuff that I knew we would need, and all the stuff you think you need that you don't need, So yeah, 4 or 5 sea bags and some backpacks, and flew to Panama.
Whole family?
Yeah.
There's got to be a sense of adventure, but also a sense of responsibility, dude. Like, you're now leading your family on this adventure.
Right. And that's kind of like, there's like the sailing aspect of like the logistics of doing the thing. And then there's like, my perspective, or, as parents, your perspective. And it's kind of this, all the things in life that it's kind of taken care of, in modern life, like schools and activities, like someone organizes it, someone deals with it. Yeah, you got to drive them around, but their education's essentially taken care of. Their doctor's appointments, they make them for you. Like, everything is just kind of automated to some degree, right? There's a way to do things, and you just do what you're supposed to do. But now all of a sudden it's like, I read this one book, and it was just all about like kind of taking responsibility for everything. I was like, man, that's wise, and I kind of adopted that mantra of, when you take responsibility for everything, for finances, for navigation, for safety, for education, for kids finding friends, activities, you take responsibility for every aspect of everything. Yeah, it's a lot, but it was a challenge, and I was like, I can do it better. So I just kind of adopted this idea that I was just going to take responsibility for everything. And if it blows up in my face, then it's on me. If it succeeds, then it's on me. But I suspected that it wouldn't blow up in my face, which turned out to be accurate. But I thought we as parents could do it better. Anytime there was like a big unknown or a big risk, it always tended to benefit tenfold. And it was just like a pattern that kept repeating itself. You can take it to like, being furious about going to Malaysia. It's like, I don't even know where that is. And look at what stemmed off of that. It's like, well, I'm going to marry this foreign woman that doesn't speak a word of English, and look where that ended up, and it was just kind of this pattern that kept repeating itself. It goes back to this like all-in mentality. I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to do it, and it's going to be all in, and we're going to do it right. I wouldn't say doing it was a gamble. There was a lot of research that went into it. I mean, there's a lot of learning, a lot of reading, a lot of research, but I was willing to take that challenge on because I thought I could do it better. And I thought I could show them the world that I got exposed to as an adult. My wife was foreign born. She was traveling all around the world with the Russian ballet. I was traveling all over the world. And I told the kids, I was like, in the beginning, I was like, what I think is going to happen, I was like, what you're going to sacrifice as an adolescent is you're not going to have this core group of friends that you went to grade school with, you went to high school with, you went to college with, and you're still hanging out in your 40s playing beer pong in someone's basement with the same people you grew up with. You probably won't have that. But what you will have is you will have friends all over the world. Not to say one is better than the worst, because who am I but it will be different, and your world will be much bigger.
So you get down to Panama and you guys jump on the boat. Did you have a plan where you were going to go, or?
The boat was seaworthy, but it was old. A lot of the systems were outdated. So I knew it needed, electronics and, water making systems. I knew it needed new stuff because it was all ancient, but the bones were solid. So I was like, okay, the general plan is going to be like, get to Florida, refit, we'll go from there. Bahamas and, like familiar grounds, go to the islands. But there was so much that, you didn't know. And in that world, your whole life plan can change in one conversation. So we spent time in Panama, and this is just like a quick example of that. And then how it just spun off into all kinds of craziness. It was like we hung out in Panama, we go to the San Blas Islands, which are incredible. And I was talking to somebody and they were talking about Colombia. And I'm like, man, do I really want to, isn't that dangerous? Like, I'd never been to Colombia. And even all my travels, I didn't spend any time there. None of us spoke Spanish. It's a problem for insurance. A lot of where you can and can't go is determined by marine insurance. There's only a few companies in the world that will even talk to you about insurance when you tell them what you're doing. So I'm talking to somebody and they're like, Colombia this, and the food is great, and the people are great, and this, and it's super cheap. And I'm like, well, that does sound pretty good. Maybe I'll just go to Colombia. It's only a couple 100 miles. And we did just that. Went to Colombia and, and set up shop in Cartagena for a little bit. And then we went to Santa Marta and the mountains and the people and the food. And it was awesome. It was awesome. And I was like, wow, this is fantastic. And then, we kind of made our way to, Aruba, and then Curacao down in the ABC Islands. It just every day just kept getting better and better. And, you're dealing with, a lot of stuff breaking, of course, which happens every day. You're in like the most toxic environment you can possibly put a piece of fiberglass is salt water, right? Like it is shocking the speed at which things will get destroyed in salt water. So it's a constant battle. But then, we were able to get a bunch of electronics done in Aruba. We found this guy was a Dutch engineer, did a lot of solar things and things like that. And, he fixed a lot of our power issues. And, throughout this time in the Caribbean, we just kind of learned like, okay, you can do stuff here. It's more of a pain. It's also much cheaper than going to Florida and doing something. So you start learning how to navigate, logistics of things. Life without Amazon or a cell phone is incredibly challenging.
Did you find that, having to deal with those inconveniences was worth what you were having for experiences?
Probably not in the beginning because, the stress is, your stress levels are just through the roof. To make the boat move from A to B, that's probably the easiest thing. You think that's a lot of it. It's part of it, but it's really not. There's so much more. At what point in your life are you rewiring things? And our boat was 230 volts, because it was a European boat. So it was like, I smoked a microwave because of the frequency differences in electricity. Like, at what point you're like, is that microwave 50 or 60 hertz? How many amps does your refrigerator pull? Like having to calculate all this stuff, and you're just learning by trial and error and talking to people. There's so much knowledge of people you meet, and everyone, the community of people out there living that life is incredible. People from all over the world, dozens and dozens of languages and cultures and creeds and all of it. And there's just so much knowledge, and everyone's so willing to help. A lot of people are like, well, who do the kids hang out with? I'm like, there are kids everywhere. Everywhere we went, there was kids. Then Starlink started becoming a thing, and that was a huge game changer with school and communication. I mean, it's incredible, really, incredible. These kids were doing school. It's like they're done by 10:30 in the morning. They just get up, get it done. They start not doing what they're told and then just doing what they know they need to do. And then they're done. And when you're done, you're done. And then we go play, and it's like you're done by, 11 in the morning. We eat lunch, and then we do 2 scuba dives in the afternoon, and everyone's exhausted and you're asleep when the sun goes down, and you wake up and do it all over again. Things like WhatsApp and these groups started getting created, and some apps out there of how to find boats with other kids. And it's like, man, to be in a isolated island with an anchorage with 7 boats with kids on them. And it turns into like Lord of the Flies, right? 12-year-olds hanging out with 7-year-olds. And it's just like, there's a horde of kids running amok on this island. No phones, no iPads, just like, I have a stick, you have a stick.
Yeah.
Let's go hit coconuts with sticks. It was great.
What were some of the early on struggles, the first year? Because you lived on the boat for almost 4 years.
Yep. Yeah, we were out there for like 3.5 years. I think the struggles in the beginning just come from just ignorance. The systems of the boat, you don't know them, you don't understand them. None of it makes sense to you. Why is this thing doing this? Why is this alarm going off? That's where all the stress comes from. It's just not knowing what the hell you're doing. And it's like the whole boat's just like crumbling around you. Lightning's cracking. It's just like, no one speaks English, but you learn how to navigate those things. And as time goes on, it gets easier and easier. Within a year or maybe even 2, it's like, man, there wasn't a noise, a crack, a creak, a beep, a sound on that boat. I'm like, I know exactly what that is. I know exactly what tool I need. I know exactly what that problem is. But in the beginning, it's like alarms are going off, and not only can I not fix the problem, I can't even tell you what the problem is. And there's no one to ask. It's not like your check engine light goes on, you pull into the shop and you say, my check engine light's, you got to fix it or learn how to fix it. If you have a toaster and your toaster doesn't work, you plug it in, it doesn't work, you just go get another toaster. But what if you can't? So now you get online and you spend, 4 hours of your life learning about toasters, right? So when it's over, you're like, no one knows more about toasters than I do. And that's every single system, because every single system, every single thing will break at some point. And that's what you're just going to do for 2 days. You're going to learn and research, ask people, and then if you need parts, and it's like, wow, we got to FedEx this thing from Europe or somewhere. And it's incredibly difficult. I compare it a lot to like learning how to play a guitar. It's very difficult in the beginning, but once you get over that first hump, now you're just incrementally learning, but most people don't get over that first hump because it's so much at once. It's like, can I hear the rhythm? Can I make 2 different hands do different things at the same time? But once those things click, it kind of comes together. And then it's like, it's incremental. You're like, okay, well now I can spend 2 days learning about this toaster instead of trying not to make the thing sink.
Yeah. How long would you normally stay in one place with the boat, or did it really vary, and what was the variance?
Well, weather is everything. You'll never pay more attention to weather ever in your life. If you meet a sailor, that's what we talk about. You know, it's like, this is a great place today, but by tomorrow at noon, it's going to be awful in here. So we have to go somewhere else. Some of it's visa stuff. You know, you can stay in a place for 90 days or 60 days or wherever it may be. Some of it's the people. You know, you link up with people that you get along with. They have kids that are about your age. All the kids get along. And you kind of become this like posse of, or this little armada of kid boats, you know, that kind of roam around. And, you know, they have an idea, you know, you're like, hey, we're going to go to Colombia or Bonaire or whatever. And you're like, well, I don't know anything about that place. You know, like, what's the deal there? It's like, well, this and this and this. You're like, yeah, well, are you guys going there? When are you leaving? Tomorrow? Hey, you want to go to this? Okay, sounds good. Let's go. And you can do it just like that. It all changes in one conversation, and you meet so many people going in so many different directions, and everyone has knowledge about a place you don't. So where we go and when we go and how long we stay depends. You know, it's like if we want to go diving at this place, then we go there. And if we like it, we stay for 2 months. And if we don't, we stay there for 3 days and leave.
Where did you go initially? So you started off in Panama, then you went to Colombia. Where did you guys go after? Did you guys go through the Panama Canal?
We did, but not for a couple years. So yeah, we went to Aruba, spent a bunch of time there, and then we went to Curacao, and then we went straight north across the Caribbean to Puerto Rico. Then we went down the whole island chain, you know, through the Caribbean all the way, you know, Guadeloupe and Martinique and St. Martin, St. Vincent, down to Grenada, you know, and then you got to be north or south of, you know, the hurricane belt, you know, during that time of year, you know, for insurance purposes, and you don't want to be in a hurricane.
Yeah.
Right?
There's that.
Yeah, there's that. But, you know, you can move. You know, weather forecasting's gotten a lot better. You know, if something's brewing, you're going to know about it, you know, a week out. And, you know, we can do 1,000 miles in a week. You know, we can be in Brazil in that amount of time.
What was one of the worst things that you had to deal with, excluding weather? Because I know you got some good weather stories we'll go into.
Worst things? I mean, it's just logistics. You know, you may need, like, oh, the generator stops working, and you need this $3 part that you could, you know, get from Amazon between 4 and 8 tomorrow morning. And now it's like, I have to FedEx it. It's got to go through customs or a freight forwarder, and it's going to take a month to get here. And I have to pay off like 3 people. So this $3 part I could get in 12 hours. Now it costs $70 and takes 3 weeks. There's like a couple things that are like what I call showstoppers, you know, like where you're just immobilized against, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? So like the engines need to work, right? You have to be able to make water. I mean, hell, if you don't even have any sails, you can still move. So that's a big inconvenience, but it's not a showstopper. But water, power, and propulsion are what I call showstoppers. We got immobilized probably half a dozen times. And it's like, man, the stress level goes through the roof. You're stuck on a work dock in some freaking island, and no one knows how to do anything. You can't get anything. But that's the time when you meet the people you're friends with for 5 years. It's like whenever something terrible happens, it always tends to be for the better. You never realize that at the time because you're furious. But it's this like reoccurring theme that whenever something terrible happens, something great always comes from it.
What were some of your best memories on that boat? I know you got a lot of them, but like some of the things like now that you're off the boat that you guys think about or talk about as a family, or
I think it's the time, you know, in the world, they call the world like here, you know, you're driving kids, you take them to school, you drop them off, they're gone for 10 hours, you're at work, and you pick them up, you drive them to practice, they go do their thing and come back. Everyone shoves a bunch of food in their mouth and goes to sleep and does this shit for an hour, and then everyone's out. And you do it all over again and again. And then there's a tournament this weekend, and you got to do this hotels and this rat race mentality. I quickly became aware, and even much more so now, it's time. So there's 4 of us on a boat that's probably, I don't even know, let's just say like 200 square feet. At most, right? Which seems tiny, but it doesn't when you're out there, because every window, the doors are always open, the windows are always open. You live essentially outside, and your windows are horizon to horizon in every direction all the time. So it doesn't feel that small. You know, when stress levels go up, it can feel very small very quick, you know, because you're like literally bumping into people. But it's the time. Yeah, I mean, I would sit out on the back of the boat, smoke a cigar, and just talk to the kids for 2 hours, 3 hours every day, 7 days a week. There wasn't a conversation that was had, an issue that wasn't dealt with, a problem we didn't encounter that we weren't all actively a part of. Everybody, no matter what, good or bad. So it's just the time, the conversations that were had. I mean, you know, like my dad would come out, you know, the kid's grandfather, and he would come out for like a month. And they'd be like, Grandpa's driving me crazy. I don't know. I'm like, think about it like this. You spent more time with your grandfather in 1 month than most people do their entire lives. You spent 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ate every meal together. There's no television. You eat together. You suffer together. You play together. The good times are great. The bad times are terrible, but you're all there for all of it all day long. A 12-year-old is not going to, in normal world, help you buy a house or be next to you at every step of the way when you're dealing with lenders and brokers and all this stuff. But when you're doing it on a boat, they're with you for all of it, every conversation, everything, all day long. So they're just getting exposed to like issues and adult conversations and the things that they will encounter in their life very soon. I don't think I did that intentionally, but they're just there for it. The good, the bad, like they've seen dad at his absolute worst and at your absolute best, and vice versa. Everyone's there for everything. I mean, to just sit there and just stare at the ocean and just have a conversation with your 13-year-old for 4 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week about whatever. And we're not talking about TikTok. We're not talking about volleyball practice, just like life shit, stars. Like, let's talk about the moon for an hour. I was reading this book earlier and I was talking about this and the stars or the ocean or life or stock markets or anything, the kind of conversations that like you and I would have. You know, you could take my 16-year-old, 17-year-old and put her in this chair, and she could talk to you for 3 hours without skipping a beat. My son could do it in Spanish.
Yeah, literally.
So, I, you know, knowing what I know now, I think the most valuable thing is time.